Welcome back to Rocket Talk. It is episode 35. And guys, before we get into our discussion of stuff with the iPhone and Steve from Minecraft and our topic of the week, let's do a quick bev check. I actually am not drinking a alcoholic beverage today. I am having a nice A&W root beer.
Are you getting sober on us?
No, I just ran out of beer and I didn't buy any yet because I'm trying to save money since I spent $500 on the PS5.
Well, there is that. I've got a 2016 California Zinfandel called Temptation.
That was a fun year.
I'm a white girl.
Well, speaking of white girls, I went to Starbucks and I got myself a pumpkin spice latte.
Hey, man. Nothing wrong with drinking wine or pumpkin spice lattes. I had a pumpkin cream cold brew this morning, and Abby had a pumpkin spice latte, and both were tasty. So, nice. So let's move on into nerd news now. The first one is the iPhone 12 did get announced. So,
Yay.
I know two of us are iPhone users, even though Johnny is quite behind on the iPhone train. With you have what, the 5, the 6? What do you have?
The 6.
Oof. Yeah. I have the 10R, so mine is getting a couple years old now too. And then I know Connor has his cheap, crappy Android. So
Actually, it's still pretty cheap.
I mean,
though it's
Johnny's
most expensive phone I've ever had.
Johnny's iPhone from like 2015 is probably better than your.
It's an LG V40 Think. It was like $400.
Dude, LG phones suck.
They actually do. I'm
How
not
often do
going
they
to
make a
argue
new version
anything.
of iPhone? Every 6 months?
Every year.
Oh, every year.
So, but so they they always go like a lot of times 6, 6S, 7. They do a lot of like 2 years usually of each model. Sometimes they only do one. But yeah, so we had the 12 announced. So the big selling feature is it has 5G. There's a couple other new things. Obviously, the camera's better, the screen's better, processor. But the big selling points is it has 5G and it has MagSafe. So there's a magnet on the back of the phone. It's not harmful to the internals because the whole thing, you don't put a magnet up to a computer because it'll like destroy it. But it'll have a magnet on the back of the phone, so that way certain cases and wireless chargers it can snap on. So that's really nice too because that can make it easier to get on your wireless charger, or there's like car mounts is going to be really nice for that. But the biggest thing is the 5G, which is growing in America, but that's still a relatively niche market because like you're supposed to be able to get 4 gigabits a second theoretically with 5G, but a lot of like the numbers according to TechRadar is roughly 1.4 gigabits a second for Verizon, which is still really fast. But we're not fully 5G is still too new, so it's kind of hard to know if that really is worth a big selling point for this or some of the other Android 5G phones over just saving a little bit of money for a previous year's model of iPhone or a slightly cheaper Android one. Because like what we've had in the last couple of years, iPhones have switched to where instead of being $200 if you have a new contract, it's $1,000, or you can lease it through Sprint or Verizon or AT&T for $15 a month or whatever. But there is one big downside that's coming with this that has gotten people pretty upset. To continue Apple's push for being carbon neutral and environmental, all that, the long-standing rumors are true. It does not come with a charging adapter or earbuds, so it makes the box smaller. But also that means that now, if you don't have these things, you're gonna have to go out and buy it. So I just want to know, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Is this a big deal? Is this a bad deal? Like, I mean, like this is like it is kind of an anti-consumer move, but like, is this really something to get up in arms about, or is this more just like I mean, it happens.
I'm not a big fan of buying not having everything that you need all in one package. And I mean, it was like that with the headphone jack before. But of course, the headphone jack wasn't like mandatory, but it's still.
I don't miss the headphone jack.
I mean, I certainly would. I can't stand I don't trust like a lot of wireless stuff. Just because I'm always worried there's going to be some kind of disconnect, or it's gonna have a charge and the charger could die, and then you have to spend a lot of money to buy that again. But I know it's more like where we're headed, where the future is going, the future technology. But to me, it just seems a bit an anti-consumer move. Like, you can get more money from having to buy the extra parts that it doesn't contain. So
yeah, but I mean, this almost any outside of phones, anything you buy really that requires a USB connection plugged into some sort of adapter, whether that's a phone, headphones, controllers. There's a ton of stuff outside of phones don't come with that anymore. Like I'm trying to think back to so things I bought recently or have been gifted that you have to plug into one of those docks or a computer. I have a charging dock for both the Switch and the PlayStation 4. I have multiple PS4 controllers. I have that wireless Switch controller that I can use on PC. My AirPods, the Bose headphones I bought the year before that, my Fitbit. None of those came with a block because I had tons of them around the house. And like it's one of those that people who are buying a brand new iPhone day one are not buying their first cell phone ever. Like these are people that have had phones for probably years. If you know, they may be upgrading from an iPhone 6, iPhone 7 to an iPhone 12 for the first time in 4 or 5 years, but it's not like they're going and buying a cell phone for the first time or technology for the first time. So chances are they probably do have it. It's one of those, like you said, the headphones, or another one I thought of when you were talking about it is the CD drive. You don't have a CD drive in most laptops anymore, and that's another one where I haven't really missed it. Like there was a couple times when I got my first laptop without it, it was like, but because physical media for like music and video games has gone down on PC, I haven't missed it as much. Same with like headphones. I have missed having outside of driving. Before I had my wireless charging mount, I have missed having a headphone jack in with my phone maybe once or twice since I got an iPhone 7 and newer, just because once you get used to it, it's fine. And going to your point of the wireless headphones, I would say that can be an issue, but if you're smart with the AirPods and some of the other new true wireless ones, the cases hold a good amount of charge on them. There's only been a couple times where my AirPod case has been too low because I forgot to charge it, and so I couldn't use my AirPods right then and there, but the AirPods have had tremendous battery life for me. So
one thing that I have a problem with, though, or pretty much the biggest thing is that it's because it's not something that's connected, and because it's relying on more technology, because it's wireless, or not a part of the set, is if there's something faulty within it, then it's that much more expensive to purchase again to replace. And this isn't Apple, but it's Nintendo. But the Joy-Con are a really good example of. They used to have wired controllers, and now there's wireless controllers with the Joy-Con, and then the Pro Control is much better. But in the case of the Joy-Con, which is like their their main controller that they advertise for everything, there's so much Joy-Con drift and so much sticky buttons and all these problems that happen. And if it were if it were a wired controller, then, and this weren't happening, then it would likely be a lot less expensive. But now that we're in the there's so many things that Joy-Con is capable of, it makes it more expensive, and that much more expensive to replace. And
yeah, but typically
again,
those things have warranties.
That's not well, it's not Apple that's at fault for that, of course, but my fear comes from that if something is faulty, then it's hard to replace. Not everybody is like that. I'm not even saying Apple is like that. But I do have, and this is a personal thing, that I just have the fear that with more expensive gadgets that we have, if there's something that's wrong with it, it's going to be a lot more expensive to replace. And it could be working perfectly fine, and that's great. It's just it takes a little bit for me to want to risk that. Is all.
But I mean, a lot of these things do come with warranties, and like if it's a faulty equipment, not from like poor use, like if it's one of those where it just is a defective product, a lot of times those companies, whether it's a wired or wireless, they do give you replacements or refunds or something like that. Like if my Blue microphone right now just stopped working, I could email Blue and Logitech, and because it'd be covered under warranty, since I didn't just go and like dump my root beer on it, they would most likely send me a replacement because there's something faulty with the wiring. And it'd be the same with a wireless controller or headphones. It just would depend on what caused it to go faulty and the warranty and all that. And and because of people like Nintendo aren't doing warranties like that, that's why they're getting sued, because they put out an effective product and they're not helping. It's not as much of a the product's fault. It's more how Nintendo's handling it that I think is the bigger issue.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel this way because of companies like Nintendo, but that's and it makes me have a negative view towards a lot of other products, even like what Apple makes. But that doesn't mean that I think Apple's in the same boat necessarily. I'm just a little bit more cautious when it comes to more expensive products because of Nintendo. So I'm not against it per se. I'm just a cautious person. I don't use a lot of up to date technology. I didn't even get an iPhone until like 2014. So I've always been a little bit more cautious, and I'd much rather use retro technology, but we're in 2020 now, and so I got to start living in 2020.
Well, also too, I feel like if you're using retro technology, the issue you run into is if something does go faulty, the older it is, the harder it is to fix it because there's less and less of those products out there anymore, and there's less and less stuff to repair it. Because it's the same when it comes to cars. If you have a 2019 Toyota Camry and something goes wrong with it, like that, there's a lot more parts available for that compared to a 1992 Toyota Camry, because those cars are eternal. So there's probably a 92 out there that's still chugging along. But yeah, it's
in my experience, a lot of older stuff is a lot more hefty and like built to last a lot more than some newer fragile high-tech stuff. Phones come to mind, gaming controllers come to mind. That's not the case with everything, of course. Like you mentioned, cars. I'm sure the newer cars are definitely built to last more than older cars. But certainly when it comes to gaming and phones, for sure, definitely phones were a lot more durable.
They also couldn't do as much though, so
yeah,
it's a trade-off.
A lot of that is probably the lack of features older phones have. That's why Nokia's are.
I mean, each one came with its own pillow attached to all sides, so
yeah, they have airbags built in.
Well, the new iPhone, according to Apple, is 4 times better in some way. It has a new ceramic coating on the screen, so it makes it 4 times better. And I don't know if that means that if you drop it from a foot away, it's 4 times more durable, or there's something that the screen is more durable 4 times what the previous model was. So I don't know exactly what that is, but it is supposed to be tougher than any smartphone glass, is what Apple is pushing on their website with everything. So
that's really cool.
Which is good because some iPhones have been so inconsistent. I've cracked a couple of them. I cracked one on one of my first iPhones when I bought AppleCare with it. I had to go take it in because the home button stopped working, and the day before I took it in, it fell out of my pocket. Situation like this: I'm in a chair and it fell out of my pocket on the ground, like on pavement, and it shattered. And then there's times when I've ran and it slipped out of my hands and threw 10 feet and smacked the wall, and it's just fine. So who knows? But
let me get on this. I've been sitting here and so with this whole argument, I was actually leaning towards the side that Johnny was on. I think this was a horrible anti-consumer move. I thought it was just a cheap way of, it was cutting costs and making money, and then it might help the environment. The more I was reading up on this, I didn't realize just how many recycled parts each iPhone is assembled with. I didn't know.
Yeah, they've really been pushing that the last few years.
It's been great, yeah. And so when I was reading that, it made sense that they would want to make the boxes smaller and easier to ship. And because of that, there was no way around, taking out one of the features or one of the things, the accessories that came with it. And they had to choose the one that was probably more ubiquitous throughout their user base, is the charging block. And like Luke said, most people have 2 or 3 of them, maybe 4 or 5, and it hurts the least amount of people possible, I think. The people that don't have the charging block, it's going to hurt, but I mean, you can find one anywhere. You can go and buy one at a gas station. And
if you want an official Apple one, it's only like $10, $15. I mean, I get that is still $10, $15. You have to spend more. And if you're buying the phone outright brand new, yeah, sure, that's an extra $15 to spend on 1,000. But it's kind of the same way when you buy other technology things. I'm gonna buy a PS5 day one, and I'm gonna have one controller. If I want to play split screen games with Abby, I'm gonna have to go out and spend another I think $70-$80 on another controller. I have to buy games for it. You go and buy a camera, you have to buy a memory card, and some of those things it's only $5-$10, and it's kind of nickel and diamond on expensive stuff, but it still is there. It's annoying, but like I said too.
But that's the worst, is that it's annoying. It's not detrimental. It's just annoying, and we don't know to what degree this is going to help the environment. But I have to assume that a almost $1 trillion company like Apple is going to know that the helpfulness to the environment outweighs the minor inconvenience that the iPhone users are gonna face.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have some questionable practices about who's making these iPhones overseas, but that's something that we can bring up in a later argument.
Yeah,
but,
true.
I mean, overall, I'm for this choice. It makes sense with where they've been helping the environment, what ways they're using their phones to help the environment.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that, and it's what I think it's just like the headphone jack, or the CD drive in laptops, where a few months down the line, a vast majority of people are gonna like forget that it even came with like one of those where like you're gonna in 3 or 4 years, like, hey, remember when iPhone removed the power block? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they used to come with it, because it's just gonna be like such the norm. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna be surprised if in a couple years we see if like more and more like where a phone coming with a charging block is like is out of the blue, because there are still a few Android phones that still do have the headphone jack, and they still advertise that, but that's another one. Like the headphone jack has kind of gone the wayside because of everyone jumping in the true wireless game, and that jack is space that can be a bigger battery, a bigger camera, more processing power, and so it's a calculated move by Apple, because they looked at the stuff and know, okay, here's ways that we can help the environment, even if cutting charging blocks and headphones is the equivalent of like the pollution of straws in the ocean compared to the other harsher stuff that's something there, where it's a fraction of a fraction, but it's still a good step in the right direction, because that's a company that's trying to go completely carbon neutral and make all their iPhones completely recycled products. And
I think by 2035 they said, or something like that.
Yeah, that's their goal right now. So we'll see if they get there, but like they are pushing really big to be better for the environment, and how much of that is actually their goal, how much of that's more just for the clout, but that's a discussion for a whole other day as well. But yeah, I'm not one that I'm not too upset about it. Like, it's a bummer, but like I have enough of these cords. I have 2 on my outlet next to my bed right now. One that has my phone charger and one that has my Fitbit watch charger. So it's like, if I got a third one, I would switch one of those out, and then that other one would go into a drawer or just some other random spot. I could put another random charger somewhere.
Plus, with the whole Bluetooth thing, like everything's being Bluetooth, people are removing their headphone jacks. Very few laptops out nowadays are assembled with a CD-ROM, like a disk drive for it. You have your options. You can get extensions and stuff like that. You can like my wife has one for her. Laptop.
Like, sure, it's annoying that we have to buy that now, but also going back to the $60 CD drive or however much one is, I would rather spend the $60 for that if that means that I have a bigger solid state drive, or my circuit board can handle more CPU. So, but I mean, to each their own. Like, obviously, like, there's people that are gonna like absolutely hate this, but I think a lot of the people that are more upset about this are ones more like a Johnny, who aren't gonna, like, you weren't going out and buying the iPhone 12. Like, if like this wasn't a deciding factor for you to get or not get one, and maybe there's someone out there that was it, that's the last straw, and now they're going to an Android, but they're in the minority there. Mm-hmm. So. Let's move on then into a couple more news now topics real quick. We did get our first look at the PlayStation 5 UI. So this past week, PlayStation revealed about an 11-minute video where they went over pretty much everything that'll happen from what it looks like when you turn on the system to just how quick the game is. We've even seen some of this with Xbox as well, because they sent out early kits to a bunch of publications like IGN and Kind of Funny. And so we've been able to see just how quick these games load up, and it's insane. Like, where they were doing it is they were mainly showing Sackboy: A Big Adventure, the platforming game that's coming out, and he showed off the new feature activities. So it'll have different things from the game, like what you have in progress, like either levels or sections of it. So it could be a situation where you boot up Crash Bandicoot 4 if they had like a PS5 version, and it could say, oh, you got 15% of the way through the last level of Cortex Castle. Do you want to jump in this, or do you want to go back and instantly load into this level? So you can do that right from the home screen, and a bunch of other just stuff to show just how quick and seamless everything is. So what were you guys' thoughts on the user interface look at the PS5?
I thought it was freaking awesome. That must be Sony's way of their response to Xbox Quick Resume. And since I'm not a PlayStation user, I can't really go into how game changing this is from PS4, PS3. So I just have to more ask, like, Luke, as a Playstation, did you feel this change was necessary for the next generation?
It'll help so much. I mean, we're seeing it with both consoles with the early stuff we're seeing, just how fast things are loading. Like, there's still loading times. Like, loading times are still going to be there, but just how much better the solid state drive is making things. Going back to the Xbox One, there's been times where I can't remember what his name is right now, but the guy who runs the Xbox podcast at IGN, he posted his final preview up recently, and he put a side-by-side comparison of an Xbox One X and an Xbox Series X starting Red Dead Redemption 2. And it still takes like a minute for you to jump into Red Dead and everything to load, but it takes almost 4 minutes on the Xbox One. So like, you're cutting time down significantly, because that is one thing that I run into. GTA is a perfect example. That game takes ages to load. Crash Bandicoot 4 does take a decent amount of time to load as well, so I'm excited to see on the PS5 how much quicker that'll load off of the solid state drive, even though that game may not be as optimized for PS5 as the new game's going to be. Like, Call of Duty is going to be insane. I'm going to jump in and like be on the main menu in probably 10 seconds and be able to jump into a game of zombies like that. Like, that's going to be awesome. So it's one of those that I think, just like with Quick Resume, it's going to be one of those features that we didn't know we needed until we got it, because
exactly, yeah,
because it's like because that's been the big one I've been seeing that people who have played with the new systems have said is like, doing this and now going back to the old way for the last couple weeks is like, oh, this sucks. It's the same with Call of Duty when I mentioned last week in the blast off or blow up, that you can adjust the field of view for like what your peripheral vision is, and it's one of those that, since I played the beta so much at a wider field of view, when I go back to the other Call of Duties now, I feel like so tunnel vision now from it, and so
exactly. And as games get bigger and more immersive, like, this is only these features are only necessary because it's not going to be, I mean, it's not going to be too long before we're buying games that are at like $80 and they're like 200 hours long. And obviously that's an exaggeration, but it's to make a point. We need features like this. And right now it feels kind of like a treat for us, but eventually it has to be.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Johnny? How are you feeling about the UI look? Is this making you more excited for the PS5, or is this just like, cool, just give me the PS5?
It's definitely making me more excited. I mean, I'm not used to, like I've said a bunch of times, I'm not used to playing really any PlayStation since the PS2, so anything is going to be a step up for me. So I am pumped for it. I'm excited to delve into more different kinds of games, and having this kind of advancement towards or advancement with gaming is something that I'm just really excited about.
Nice, yeah. It definitely is something that this was the last piece, really, because we've seen gameplay, we've seen the price, we've seen the console, we've seen the innards. This was the last one, so now we have this. It's nice. We are less than a month away. By the time this episode goes live, the whole world will be less than a month away, even because of the worldwide release being a few days later. But I am so excited. Which actually, quick one we can mention as well. If you are in America and still looking for a PS5, Burger King might be your solution. So they're doing a promotion. Just like every year we always see some sort of fast food or junk food company do promotions with video games and other technology. So Burger King is doing a contest from now until the 22nd of November that if you spend a minimum of $5 either through the BK app website or $5 purchase at Burger King and scan your receipt, you have a chance to win up to there's 1,000 PS5s, 2,000 copies of Sackboy: Big Adventure and Demon Souls, 1,000 3-month subscriptions of PlayStation Now, and also just like food and drink from Burger King. So, Johnny, go to Burger King between now and November 22nd, and you might be able to win a PS5. So, download the app and sign up for it, and you can do that.
Oh no, I needed a reason to go to BK, and now I have it because I definitely didn't before.
Yeah, so I have already done it a couple times. I have not won anything yet, sadly. I went there for lunch one day, and then Abby and I this afternoon got milkshakes. So they had a 2-for-5 deal on milkshakes, so it was perfect. There's my $5. But yeah, it
what would you do if you actually won? Because you've already pre-ordered yours.
So I want
give it to me. Is what he do.
I'm trying to get it for Sackboy because I already wanted Sackboy Big Adventure, so like that'd be nice. But yeah, if I won it, I would either sell it or give it to a friend of some sort.
Like one that you should like have a podcast with, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I guess I could give it to Connor, so you can have both.
Oh wow.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. It'd be nice to win a second one because then because best case scenario, then I have another friend that has it, or I am $500+ richer. Either way, it'd be a win for me. So who knows how much money that Burger King will gain over the next few months. People trying to get it, probably more than what they could. Like if I win Sackboy and I do it spending like $70, it's like I could have just bought the game at that point. But oh well. And then moving on to another one real fast. Speaking of the next-gen consoles, Microsoft did finally give us the official launch lineup for the new consoles. And oh boy, is it rough. It is, it's a pretty expansive list. I will give that. There's a lot of variety in there. But if you are looking at buying an Xbox for true Xbox next-gen exclusive, you're not going to get either from an Xbox One or from PlayStation. There really isn't a whole lot to get it anymore since Halo got delayed. So there's some big name games that are coming out day one when the system does launch. Includes Dirt 5, Devil May Cry Special Edition, Forza Horizon 4, Fortnite, NBA 2K21, Watch Dogs Legions, Tetris Effect, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and stuff like that. So like there's some big name games that are still coming out, but all those games are either already on Xbox One or PS4, or they are ones that are coming out on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and all that. So there's not a whole lot of new things. The only true new thing that you are going to get on console is, if you buy it, is Gears Tactics, which is already on PC. So it'll be launching on Xbox One and Series X and S on the 10th when the Series X and S launch. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of things. So Connor, as you at the one who was looking at more getting an Xbox, does this list make you does this list have anything that really be like, oh yes, now I really need to get this day one, or now since pre-orders are harder to get, are you a little more fine if that means you can't get it for a couple weeks or a month?
I don't know. I keep falling asleep reading the list, and I'm getting tired because I started reading that list, and man, I'm for a nap. It was so underwhelming. Oh my god. This so of the games here, I think the one I was looking forward to and I might actually get is Dead by Daylight. It's got like a 9 out of 10 on
That's a
GameSpot.
really fun game. It is. It was free on PlayStation Plus a couple years ago, and yeah, that's a very spoopy game for sure. And they've done a good job of a bunch of crossovers with other like horror and like spoopy stuff. Like it's a perfect Halloween-y game.
Oh, that's even better. A lot of these games I do want to play, but I'm not willing to pay full price for them. And I don't do enough gaming to get any sort of service for it. So some of them I'm probably just going to have to... Yeah, I should get Game Pass.
Because if you get Game Pass...
It's not much.
So if you get Game Pass, you can play Dead by Daylight, Forza, Gears Tactics, Grounded, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Sea of Thieves, Tetris Effect Connected, The Tourist, spelled with a Y, and yeah, so like that's a handful of games, and those are some good games in there. including Dead by Daylight. So there's some good games you can play in there.
And honestly, I should get Game Pass because it's one of the best deals in gaming. Honestly, maybe I will. Maybe the Series X is gonna make me a full-on gamer, and that's how I'll spend a lot of my time.
Well, if you're gonna plan on playing multiplayer, then get Game Pass Ultimate because it has Xbox Live in there. You'll get free games through Game Pass and free games with Gold, so you'll get all that. So,
and they don't break the bank either.
Yeah.
But holy cow, this was such an underwhelming list. This is a great lesson that you cannot have your day one launch titles rest on the shoulders of one franchise. Because, I mean, what if the game sucks? And get this, what if it isn't even ready day one? And I mean, I know that would never happen in a million years.
But I mean, we've seen issues. Nintendo has been kind of an exception, but we've seen issues with the PS4's exclusive launches were... Let's see, it was Resogun, Killzone Shadowfall, and Knack. And while Knack has become kind of a meme, Resogun was a fun game, but it's not a system seller type of game. And then Killzone Shadowfall, it's a forgotten about game in a franchise that has been largely forgotten about. So, we've seen it where a lot of these systems are launching with games that are a little more undesirable. Like Nintendo's been lucky that they've been able to launch stuff like Breath of the Wild and Mario 64 and Wii Sports and some other big games that came out day one that were able to be system sellers. But I mean, a lot of times it is a situation where when you buy a brand new system day one, you're not always going to get a phenomenal game. Like there's the Xbox One launched with Rise, Son of Rome, and Dead Rising 3, and I don't know if any other... I mean, it launched with a bunch of stuff like Call of Duty and Madden and bunch of third-party stuff, but first-party stuff, there's not a whole lot of reasons that there were to buy last generation either. So who knows? Johnny, what about you? How are you feeling about this list as a non-Xbox person? Is it underwhelming to you as well, or?
Yeah. There's not really anything on here that want to get an Xbox. So I'm sure there are some games that people are excited to get. Gears 5 is something I've been wanting to play, but because I'm a Gears of War fan, but not really anything else on here.
Yeah, but so a little bit of underwhelming thing with Microsoft, and then our last one, real quick. Dexter is coming back with a limited series, so it did just get announced that we're going to get a new limited run on Showtime, and so of course the surprise motherfucker Vine was making its way on it as well. So Dexter ended about 6 years ago with some pretty poor reception. But the original showrunners back who worked on the first 4 seasons instead of the showrunner who did it for season 5, and then Scott Buck who did the last 3 seasons. So the first 4 seasons back, so you have a lot of the original people back. So we've seen other shows when they were on where old people came back and that made the show go up. A good example of that is The Office. I think the last season you really see a bigger uptick because some of the early showrunners from the first 3 or 4 seasons came back that left, and that's why I think you do see a uptick in quality compared to when Michael left in season 8. But as someone who never watched Dexter, I know that the ending. While I don't really know what the ending is, I know that the ending is pretty hated, up there with How I Met Your Mother as one of the worst endings ever. I'm excited for Dexter fans, but I don't really care about this. What about you guys? Are you guys big Dexter fans, or is this gonna maybe get you into the show, or what?
I have started watching Dexter. Court and I actually were doing Netflix party and streaming it together early this year. So we've kind of fallen off of it, but it's been on my Netflix list ever since, and I do have plans to rewatch it. And this is, if anything's gonna interest us into continuing it, this news is it.
Nice. What about you, Connor?
I've never had an interest in watching it before. My brother watched it. He said it was amazing. So it's on my to watch list, and eventually I might get around to it. But this isn't gonna convince me to start watching it now. And honestly, the fact that it feels like they need that they're refilming all of this not refilming, that they're making this just for a proper send off it's cool and good for the fans, I suppose, but I mean, why is that necessary? Why not just bring it back and make it again for a new generation? I mean, How I Met Your Mother, Lost, Seinfeld, Two and a Half Men. These shows have underwhelming endings, but they're still beloved shows. I mean, why would a revival be any better? You still have to stick the landing. The revival is going to have to please original and new fans alike, so it might actually be harder.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, they're not coming out and actually saying it is to make up for it, but I mean, yeah, like you said,
It's gotta be a part.
It's a huge reason why. Because I mean, even Michael C. Hall, who was involved, you know, it's that he knows that he wasn't even happy with the ending as well. You know, and he's the one who played Dexter. So, like, when your main actor is not happy with how the show where he's the main role ends, then, you know, it's probably not a good thing. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. You mean, I'm just trying to think of, like, there's been a few, like, Fuller House, like, that flopped. Doctor Who has been one where that's been one that's, you know, for the most part worked a lot better for it. You know, Futurama was another one where it really helped for it coming out. Girl Meets World for Boy Meets World is another decent one, but, you know, we saw some pretty bad ones. The X-Files coming back was okay. Arrested Development season 4 was not that good. I never even finished season 5. Another one that I was thinking of too that was not that good was Heroes. They brought Heroes back for limited series after the last couple seasons of the show sucked, and the limited series sucked too. So it's like this could happen with Dexter, where just like the end of the show, it comes back and it just sucks. So who knows? But
it's hard for me to say that this isn't just a money grab. I mean, they can do it under the disguise of this is going to be a better send off, or maybe they're just trying to make it again for the new generation. But honestly, like nostalgia, I never know how to say
nostalgia
it.
sells.
It sells.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the big reason why we're seeing why like Activision has been pushing Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Tony Hawk again, because that nostalgia is selling big time and stuff like that. So yeah, so we can move on. Before we go to the topic of the week, we can do a quick blast off or blow up. So Steve from Minecraft joined Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So he has been on the game now for almost a week, and so I just wanted to know what our initial thoughts were on it. I know since Connor doesn't actually have Smash, you would have to resort more to word of mouth and maybe watching gameplay on it. But Johnny, what's your initial thoughts then on Steve as a whole in the game so far?
I could not figure it out. It took me so long. It took me like online guides to figure out. I was like, it said that the B button was to craft, to like do crafting, but I was pressing it, and I was like, this isn't working, and I don't know. He's just doing like a little animation where he does like a little swing of his axe, and then I realized I had to hold it to like keep crafting stuff, and it took me like 2 battles to figure that out, so that was an issue, but that was just because I'm dumb. But then there were so many other things that like I was not good at. Like, I didn't understand a lot of like how to do the like put the block under you, because I kept making an anvil and like dropping that, which worked, which is like a really strong move, dropping an anvil on somebody. If you've seen a cartoon, you know that that's going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that was IGN's big thing. They said is that like once you have the anvil, that especially for someone like for people like Incineroar or K. Rool, that's a really good move to knock them out. Like once you knock them off, because that like since they have such weak recoveries, that can just instantly kill them for you.
But yeah, I mean, he was pretty tough to handle. For me personally, I'm not crazy about his recovery. It's a weird gliding Ray the Flying Squirrel-esque like recovery move, and
you need more steel. The more steel you have, the better it is. So like you have to mine to make it better. But it's I agree. It's not that good.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a blow up. I think that there's a lot of people who as for him being in it as a concept, as a character, absolute blast off, absolutely love it. I'm really happy that he's in. But as a fighter in Smash and the moveset that he was given specifically, definitely blowing up. Not
so would you say he's counting all the DLC characters released so far from Plant to Steve, is he your least favorite then?
Well, I recognize him, and so that definitely puts him a few points above Joker and Terry and Byleth. But I would say he's probably second to last. I think Byleth is probably my least favorite, just because we don't have a Cube Man, but we have half a dozen blue-haired anime swordsmen. So,
well, also Byleth, I feel like, didn't do a whole lot to set itself apart. At least, I mean, Terry plays kind of like the Street Fighter characters.
Yeah.
But like at least Hero and Joker and Banjo and Terry, Min Min, Plant, they all play unique enough that they are deserving to be like their mechanics are different enough that at least you have something unique. Where Byleth is just like there, just like, oh look, there's another Sword Boy.
And also, Byleth is, of all of them, not including Piranha Plant because he wasn't a part of the set, but if you take all of the characters from the first pass and now the second, Byleth is still the only character that is from a returning series in Smash Bros. Every single other character is from a brand new series.
Banjo, that's true too.
Terry,
Minecraft.
Hero. Minecraft. Like, all of them are from new series except for Byleth, which has as many as there are Pokemon. And Pokemon and Fire Emblem are leading in Smash Bros. Well, aside from Mario. But so we don't need more Fire Emblem characters, but I'd say that Steve definitely does better than Byleth. But
yeah, Steve is definitely a very mechanical character. That is just like it's insane how much they're able to make Minecraft mechanics work in the way they did with Smash. But yeah, Steve is. I played probably about 4 or 5 games as Steve or the Alex skin, the Enderman, the zombie skin, but like Steve.
Yeah.
And I lost every single game I played. It didn't matter who I was playing. I had the CPU level at 2 or 3. Oh, and wow. I was playing like I lost every single game, and then I'd go and I'd play as Dark Samus or Sonic, and I would win like super easily. So it's funny. I lost every single game as the Minecraft character that I played as, which was it definitely is one that's I think that if you can get in the right game, like you have to play the right character, because some of these ones that have a super long reach or like really good projectiles, it's a lot harder to go against them because you need so much time to mine. But I like his addition as it, but I'd probably put him more middle of the pack just because I think his it's one of those that it's where some of the other Smash characters are easy to learn, hard to master. He's hard to learn, hard to master. So I feel like I would put him below. I don't know. My favorites would still probably be, if we're just counting Fighter Pass, not counting Plant, it would either be Banjo or Terry. And then Joker would probably be third. I'd probably have him like Hero. Him and Hero I'd have right on the same spot, where they're both like technically like really diverse characters, and you can do so much with them, but they're just so hard to learn, and I'm just not good at Smash anyways. So it's harder to pick them when I can just go play as Kirby and just suck out everyone. So will say
the Steve version of Kirby is adorable. Connor, have you seen it?
I have not.
You should Google Kirby Steve form, and it is the cutest thing in the world.
The funniest is I retweeted a video where it shows they're like falling, like they're about to fall off a ledge animation. They're like whoa, and they're waving their arms and have a expressed look, and then Steve is just there, just like looking down, and so then it played "Hello Darkness" by Simon Garfunkel, and it's just oh my goodness. But yeah, I'd keep him in a blast off, but it blows up midair, kind of like the Challenger type of thing.
Connor, did you see Kirby?
I did. It was very cute.
So I like him. I like his inclusion very much. Like what Minecraft has meant for gaming is huge, and I feel like him being in is deserving. But it's a little hard for me, and maybe more time I can grow to like him a little more. But I'm more working on trying to be good at Sonic, so I can play as Sonic on Smash now more. But yeah, so now we can move on into the topic of the week. So with it being a spoopy season, it is play Pumpkin Hill every day season since it's October.
We're the fighting freak Knuckles. We're at Pumpkin Hill.
Are you ready? So definitely thought it'd be fun to do kind of like a. We've done stuff like this before, just in general, but building like a dream entertainment package of some sort of horror spoopy type of thing. So like what would we do if we were able to make a game like a Dead by Daylight or a show like Paranormal Activity or whatever. So that'd be fun if we did that this week as the holiday is coming up, because by the time this episode goes live, it'll be just a little over a week before the spoopy season. So, Colin, I'll start with you. What would you do for your dream spooky project? Would it be a movie, TV show, video game? What would it be?
It would be a movie, definitely. That's for me.
Nice. Just kind of walk through it. Like, what type of genre would it be in? If you thought about if there are certain actors or directors you want to do it, or the basic plot. Just describe what your dream movie would be.
My dream movie would probably be a slow burn, like kind of like The Witch, a little bit of Hereditary, and definitely some of the older classics. Think The Shining. Think Silence of the Lambs. It's one that allows the director, especially if in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing, the director can walk with you hand in hand, crossing the brink of sanity into insanity, but it's so subtle and so slow you don't even realize it's happening. And those are the movies that I really like. I understand people don't like them; they're slower, and
you want the slow burn psychological. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
It's considered boring, and I get it.
But those can be a little more believable, I would say, because when you have some of these like Exorcist and some of the other ones where like inspired by true events, and like it's clearly like completely fake, like the Paranormal Activity movies are like just a joke in terms of like how realistic they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you want some there's some non-realistic stuff with it, but yeah, I can see that. Maybe a good one. How cliched would it be? Would you try to do some of the same cliches you'd have in a psychological horror, or would you try to do things a little different? I know it's hard because you're not actually making it, but would you try to avoid certain tropes that plague these movies?
I would be avoiding jump scares, and I would be avoiding especially false flag jump scares. Now, when you say cliches, they exist for a reason, and sometimes they're almost impossible not to have in a movie. I think when horror movies go wrong, they show too much too soon. They're showing way too much of a villain on screen without enough build up to it. Or they're spoon feeding the audience every little sound and line. So, if there's a sound in the background, you don't have to explain it to us. You don't have to pan around and show us what it is. Is it a bottle falling on the floor, or is it an actual threat? I think the ambiguity should be left for the audience to imagine what it could be. And when you have to explain every little nuanced thing, it's insulting to the audience. The audience isn't stupid. My last thing to answer this question is jump scares. They're going to be a thing forever. Some are cheap and predictable. There seems to be a rule right now that the first jump scare of every horror movie has to be a false alarm. I disagree with this rule. I think any scare attempt can be anything. I don't think false alarms are bad necessarily. It just seems to always be the first one, and it becomes predictable and not scary at all.
Yeah. Would you always have the whole thing of like, depending on where it takes place, like the basement looks spooky, or would you have anything like that, or do you also try to avoid that? Because there are some very obvious giveaways when you watch certain things, like, oh, I bet the basement's gonna be haunted.
Exactly. We know what's gonna happen. If the camera pans down to show us the hallway where the character is looking, and then pans back, what do you think is gonna be standing right behind it? Or if it tilts up to show us what's on the ceiling, and then comes back down, and there wasn't anything on the ceiling, we know it's gonna be right behind her. We know it. We've seen it 100 billion times. The music drops. There's no sound at all. No dialogue. And then all of a sudden, this ear-piercing screech will be heard, and then sometimes a threat is there. People are scared of the sound. They're not necessarily scared of the actual threat.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just like that one jump scare game. It's the maze you do, and then when you get to the last one, it has the loud pitch scream, and it'll have some sort of jump scare image, and it's just like it's almost more the music. It's like, oh god, because of how loud it is, especially with headphones.
Exactly. We are biologically programmed to be on high alert when we hear loud sounds. It's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple other quick questions. Do you have any idea of what you would do for maybe like, is there certain like directors or actors you want to throw in this, or would it just be one that you just more the best you could get. Like you're not necessarily wanting to get, say, Jack Nicholson, or you want to get Adam Sandler. You just want to get an actor who can play the part well.
That would probably be what I would go for. Now, obviously, we wanted Jack Nicholson, we wanted Toni Collette on the screen. We want people like a James Wan behind the camera, or even a Stanley Kubrick, but we can't always rely on that. So I really like how horror movies are kind of a gateway to the rest of film, and occasionally you're going to get people that really, really come to life. The girl, I don't know if you guys saw Hereditary, but there was a girl who had this peanut allergy that went like in the film. That was her very first role, and she freaking knocked it out of the park. It was a grand slam. And that's what I live for. Oftentimes with horror movies, you're going to get a first-time director, you're going to get first-time actors, and they don't exactly have a lot of clout behind them so that they can make certain decisions that studios would make for them, and so which can lead to mismarketing a movie, kind of like The Village from 2004 with freaking what's his name, M. Night Shyamalan. That was horribly mismarketed. M. Night Shyamalan had some clout, but that's just more of a point I'm trying to make. I would probably want to go find someone, a talented as I can director that isn't in the S-list tier like Stanley Kubrick, and characters who fit the part and do a solid job. We don't necessarily need a Toni Collette, but that would be great.
You bringing up M. Night Shyamalan reminded me of one of my favorite movie theater experiences I've ever had. So when I saw Inception in the theaters, that was a ton of fun because that movie's great and all. But this was back when movie theaters were packed because COVID wasn't a thing, because it was 10 years ago. But during the movie trailers, they were showing it for Devil, the one where the people get trapped in the elevator. And so you could tell the people were like, "Oh, this looks kind of interesting." And then it said from M. Night Shyamalan, and it was just like you could hear visible like, "Oh," like they just knew that they weren't gonna like it. It was just like, "Oh, that poor guy." I actually ended up seeing that movie a few years later at a friend's house. It was one of those like after, I think it was after like a musical. It was something where after something happened, it was on like Netflix and we watched it, and movie's bad. Like the atmosphere and the acting was well done, but that movie was horrible.
The M. Night Shyamalan, dude. You could either get a grand slam or a strikeout looking. It's so, I feel bad for that guy because when he hits, but then like his bad movies are just the shiniest that a turd can be.
Yeah, exactly. But oh well. Nice. What about you, Johnny? What would yours be then?
I'm a big fan of horror movies in general, and I love a lot of. In the recent years, there's been a lot of not a lot, but in the recent years, there's been some examples of where horror is, or at least should be going. Excuse me. I think the best examples of that are It chapters 1 and 2. Hereditary, which Connor mentioned, and other Ari Aster film, Midsummer. Both of those were definitely more so Midsummer than Hereditary, but both of them are good examples of how you can change what the horror genre is and make it something that is unheard of. Hereditary is a little bit more classic. There's some drama in there. There's some really good character development and good storytelling. But Midsummer is such a, like, it's so different in the way that the horror is told. It's not dark and creepy. It is daylight all the time. It is bright and sunny, and it is still horrifying because it's so, like, it is so right in there, and you feel like, I don't know, I'm sure there's been a lot of like deep dives into Midsummer in particular, and I didn't plan for this to be a Midsummer gush fest, but one thing I love about it is that it's out in the fields, it's outside, it looks like there's so much freedom and you can like go anywhere, but you still feel so secluded. You feel so locked in place, and like you don't need to be trapped inside of a house to have a scary feeling. And it makes you it makes other movies that have haunted houses feel like even more cheap than they are, because if the ghost is trapped inside the house, move or leave. Like, you can go somewhere else. It's not that hard. But in movies like Midsummer, it's not about being in a house. It's being in a community that you cannot leave. You have no choice to leave, and even if you try, you will die. So,
would you try to do it like the one recommendation a couple weeks ago, but not bad?
Actually, 1BR is a good concept, which is why the trailer was enticing to me. I thought it was a really good concept, but it just was not done well. I really like the idea of there being a community that traps you there, and I think that like that is one of the scariest things to me. It's not ghosts or the idea of like werewolves or vampires, but I am afraid of cults. Like, the idea of cults or cultish like behaviors, it just terrifies me, and I would love to have that kind of thing more present in horror movies, because that is the scariest and most realistic version of horror you can experience.
Yeah,
if I may interject there, it's kind of the difference between creepiness and horror. The difference between creepiness and horror is ambiguity. You have no idea if there is a threat, or if there is a threat, what the degree of the threat level is. And a cult is supposed to be enticing and a friendly face and a hi, you want to like come here and let's show you what we're all about. It's supposed to be, it's really nice and enticing on the surface level, and then when you just go down a couple of steps in, it's really terrifying. That's horror done right.
Yeah, and another thing that I've thought of in the past few years is you guys actually brought it up, that there's always the creepy basement, and like all you have to do is either like leave the house or not go in the basement. And most horror movies you can survive if you just do one of those two things. But I think it would be really cool to subvert that, and the basement is the only safe place in the house. So if it's a creepy house, you go down to the basement where the ghost was afraid of when they were alive, and now they're not going to go into the basement because the ghost is afraid of that. But to leave the house, you have to leave the basement because there's no doors connecting to the outside world. So leaving the basement is leaving your safe area, and you have to get to the front door, but there's ghosts on the main floor and the second floor, and they're locking all the doors, and so you have no idea of what to do, because when you're in the basement you're safe, but you have no other way out. And
who did that was A Quiet Place. The family's safe house was in the basement. That's the only place where they were able to be safe.
And another one is the first zombie movie. What was it? Goodness.
Like very first one? One of George Romero's zombie movies?
Yes, yeah. Night of the Living Dead. And they say that like with the zombies, if you're in the basement, there's only one way in and one way out, and so it is a lot easier to kill zombies as they're coming in if you're in front, like standing in the basement and shooting them as they come in. But it also means that being your only way out, there's no way to safety if they keep coming in that way. So, I think that it's not been done very often where the basement is a safe place, but I think that genre subverting is a good thing to do, because everyone predicts it to be the dangerous place, when in reality, in this version of a movie, it could be the best place to be.
What some other in more of the horror and the psychological thrillers like that we've seen recently, would you also take any inspiration from any of the Jordan Peele movies, or like Parasite or Bird Box as well? Or
yeah, absolutely. I love the idea. Hush and Bird Box are good examples of being able to do something different, where Hush, it's a deaf character, and Bird Box is everyone has to cover their eyes. So having a lack of a sense is A Quiet Place, you can't speak, you can't make sound. So like those three are really good ways of having a horror movie where you can't have one sense, or you don't have a sense that you need to survive, and they find ways to adapt. Those are all really good examples of where I would like horror to go. Jordan Peele makes fantastic movies because it's the characters that you learn to love. And Saw is good for slasher movies because what you see is what you get. Saw does slashers. Yeah, Saw does slashers good, but they're not horror because they're not really scary. They're just like you cringe at the slasherness. But
it's shocking other than scary.
Yeah, I want a horror movie that gets me in invested in characters. Not just, oh, they're gonna die and I'm bummed at the character dying and the way that they died. It's like, yeah, I've seen that a million times, but what I want to see is you giving me characters I actually care about, not stereotypical jock, stereotypical pretty girl, stereotypical nerd, stereotypical, I don't want to see that. I want to see real characters interacting with each other. That's where in It Chapter 2, they did that very well. And Jordan Peele's movies, Get Out and Us, yes, they did that very well as well. So
Cabin in the Woods actually did their whole movie was kind of mocking the usual formula of horror films. And as much as I despised Cabin in the Woods the very first time I saw it, now that I actually know what they're going for, I totally get how easy it is to just crank out that formulaic bullshit for a horror film.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what we need more of. I think that Insidious was something that, like, at the time it was really scary, but like when you have more, like Insidious 2, Insidious 3, and then I think there's even a spin-off title, like you have some movies that are really good at being scary, but they're just better at being the same way that everyone else is doing, which is something, but it's not really reinventing it, and it's not making it stand on its own. That's like saying how I think that Captain America Winter Soldier is the best of the Marvel movies. Absolutely. And I am a big superhero fan, but like I'm not going to make somebody that's not a superhero fan is not going to watch Winter Soldier because I think it's the best version of all of the superhero movies. I think if you want to get a new audience to like horror movies, you need to really subvert what horror is. And I think that's what Ari Aster does. I think that's what Jordan Peele does. They're not like Insidious and I loved paranormal activity movies a lot, but those are not doing it the right way, I think.
A lot of them are just predictable. Like they
were scary to me because they were like not in your face about it, which I really loved. They weren't like it was anyway. I don't think those are what the prime example of what I want to see. But more Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, those are the directors that I want to see making more movies, and I want other directors to be influenced by.
Yeah, for sure. I go ask Connor too. So more for like I guess direction. There would be some names you might have you want to do it, but would there really be any? Are there any type of actors or actresses that you'd like really want to see in it, or is it more of another one like Connor said, where you'd more just want someone who can act well for the characters you'd have in this, since you'd obviously have yours be a little more character driven for the horror, like what we saw in the Jordan Peele movies and Hereditary and all that.
I don't think there's any actors that I like would want to see like in particular. I would want like maybe I'd maybe want some that have experience with horror movies. Anybody that Jordan Peele has hired would be great, because I'm a big fan of everybody in both of those movies so far. But yeah, I'm not too picky. I don't think. I mean, obviously, you have to be a good actor, and so but I would say that a lot of no names typically are the stars and do a lot better than some really well-known actors. So maybe that would be a good way to go as well.
Cool, Johnny. That does sound like interesting. Definitely as someone who doesn't watch a lot of horror movies, you definitely be interested to see what you had and Connor's as well. So awesome.
Luke, I understand that we've been kind of going through movies. You actually were switching it up a lot by wanting to make a horror game and switching it up in your own special way. What would you bring to horror games that would be different?
Honestly, mine was less of a different. I more just would want to see what Sledgehammer tried with Call of Duty World War II and do zombies with more of a horror aspect in Call of Duty, because I think I've mentioned before on this. I am a big fan of zombies in the Call of Duty series, and it's always been ever since Black Ops 1. It's become one of my favorite things in any video game, and so I would want to do taking the idea of zombies and trying to introduce some more horror theme elements, because because we kind of saw in World War II, but we really didn't get it, and also it just wasn't that good. Like the World War II zombies is like the least amount of zombies I've ever played in any Call of Duty, because they did have a period for a bit, starting with Advanced Warfare, where zombies was the third mode in every Call of Duty, so it wasn't just generic anymore. But I would want to see where we see more of it. I mean, a big thing they can go off of is actually what they're trying to take inspiration for with World War II zombies of Dead Space. So Dead Space was a survival horror series that
great game.
Yeah, and then there's some great games in there, and so I'd want to take that idea and find a way to put it into the round-based formula of Call of Duty. So like that's where the issue is going to come with it, because Dead Space is a single-player adventure where like there's you're in a typically a claustrophobic like space station, and your rig has these different things, but there's a lot of it's a lot more methodical, slow, and so it's one that I would definitely want to figure out how they can make that work properly, because Call of Duty with zombies for the most part is round-based stuff. Okay, you're here, and there are 24 zombies you kill in this round, and then the round's over, and then the next round they're slightly stronger, and now there's 30 and stuff like that. So the biggest thing is finding a way to mesh those where it really does work, and where it can like really kind of terrify you more than just like the just like jump scares. A good one of this is, I don't know how much of The Last of Us 2 you've seen, Connor, but I know Johnny has seen it, but the Rat King in The Last of Us Part 2, just Google Rat King Last of Us 2 right now and look at a picture of it.
No, thank you.
So that part is in the game. There's a part in the game where you're at a hospital, and you're like down on like one of the lower levels, which was like ground zero for the outbreak. So there are infected that have been in there for 20 years. And so like a bunch of them clumped together to this terrifying. That was one of the most terrifying moments I have ever had in a video game. Like it was one of those where I was squeamish the entire time. Like, and I usually am fine with that. Like I did not like that. So like finding a way to incorporate stuff like the Rat King or Dead Space into the formula that Call of Duty Zombies has had, I think would be a really fun way to kind of take the series kind of back to more of the horror roots of it.
That would be a new kind of tension for that's
exactly
for Call of Duty.
Yeah, because zombies is as fun as zombies is. It is one of those that's like I mean, World War II came out a year after Infinite Warfare, which was super colorful out there. Like the first Infinite Warfare map, Zombies in Spaceland. You're in a amusement park. Like it's super out there, and like super colorful, and there's David Hasselhoff, and like it's very much of a like goofy type of map compared to what you see in the more grounded take of World War II. So I'd want to see something more like that, where it's grounded, it feels realistic. They're zombies, so it's not going to be fully realistic, obviously, but that's the big one that I would want to go for, because like Zombies in Spaceland was such a fun map too, but it sometimes you need some more serious.
Would this be the type of game where you're making it a cross of Call of Duty and let's say Last of Us, let's say Dead Space, where it's building up to the number of zombies over a long period of time, but you're introducing different kinds and different maps? Or are you gonna maneuver away from that, where it's not necessarily growing in numbers? Or
I think
how would you do that?
Yeah, so I would think you'd have your base fodder zombies, and that one you can do where it increases and goes up in difficulty, goes up in health and all that, but have that cap at a certain point, but then have stuff more of having Rat King like zombies, something like that. I think a big one that would really help though, set this apart from other Call of Duty Zombies, is when like the power's off, it's really dark, and it's like where it's not okay. I'm like the power's off, so I can't buy my perk. Like the power's off, and that means it's harder to see some of these zombies that kind of more sneak around in the dark until they come up and attack you and like jump up at you. I think that would be a big one that could really set it apart, because you don't really see that and you have some that sneak up on you and this and that, but like because of how the lighting is, you can see just about anything. So
the one thing that Dead Space has an advantage of over Call of Duty Zombies is it's a story, and it can introduce special infected over.
There are stories in Zombies. All the story mode, like all the zombie games, have a story. It's just that they, instead of it being you play and you get to point A and a cutscene plays, you have to do steps of an Easter egg to get to it. Because so like Zombies in Infinite Warfare, that whole story mode is based off the idea that Willard Wyler, who is actually voiced by and mocap by Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. So he is this like legendary film director who then all of a sudden disappears, and so he comes, and the four playable characters, he kidnaps them and he puts them into these films that are zombie films, and so you have to go and do the Easter eggs to get outside those films, and then eventually fight Willard Wyler and get out. It's like there's stories to all of them. It's just that they're not as out there. It's not as easy to get to. You have to do things that trip them up. But a big issue we ran into with the last Zombies in Black Ops 4 is that it became where the Easter eggs were more like doing the Easter eggs was more important than actually playing zombies, and so that was kind of an issue where the funness of just playing and just having your mindless running around the map and killing a bunch of zombies wasn't there as much, because you had to do so many things just to get to that point. And then one thing I would do too is I would still have that classic, like have it where you can have your classic zombies as a sub mode with it too. Like what I'd have this be a standalone release. Maybe it comes out instead of Call of Duty comes out every October, November. This can come out in the springtime. Like when that spring summertime, when the initial Call of Duty hype kind of dies down a little bit and people are moving on to new games. That'd be a nice thing, because it can be standalone and they can go balls to the ball with it, but and still throw in the classic zombies stuff of some bright goofy maps and goofy things with it, but have it where this can be a nice middle ground between typical zombies and more story driven games like Dead Space or Doom or stuff like that.
All the inferior zombie games, what do they suffer from? What are they missing?
Honestly, I think the bigger one is just the gameplays aren't always as fun. Like for some reason, whether it's the mechanics or if they're trying to push a story, because like a good one I can think of is Dead Island, and how like that game was such a huge like the announcement of the game was like super hype. Like everyone was super excited for this game, but then it came out, and while its atmosphere was cool, the game just like had a bunch of issues, and the graphics were bad, and it really didn't have the emotional themes that the trailer was giving off. It was a letdown compared to what we were seeing in the trailer. Or another one would be with Dead Rising. They just kind of stuff wasn't as impressive anymore. When the first Dead Rising came out in 2006, and that was early in the Xbox 360 PS3 era, having that many zombies on the screen at once and with like little to no loading, and just like how you could do almost anything you want, like that was a cool thing. But nowadays, like that's like it's just another game in a long list of games that can do that, whether it's with zombies or with this or that. Like, so I think part of the issue too is sometimes things just either fail to deliver the promises, or over time it just got less impressive.
Yeah, actually, so that's what I think movies and limited series on Netflix and stuff suffer from, is mismarketing, or it's a gimmick for its time. Maybe you're showing off the new technology. I mean, and you could also say throw in Avatar, that's not even horror, into it. Like, it's showing off new technology for the sake of, pushing it to its limits. But then after a while, after it becomes standard, it just doesn't have the appeal anymore. And that's just something all genres, I think, suffer from. Is after you are the first one to do it, people are gonna follow in your footsteps and sometimes do it better. And then all of a sudden,
and things get stagnant sometimes too. Like when you've been doing stuff for so long, we saw it with Call of Duty with the multiplayer. The multiplayer had an issue where the reason why we went to the future for a couple games is because people were getting stagnant with like Call of Duty Ghosts was like, well, it wasn't a horrible game. It was plain. Like there wasn't a whole lot of things that Ghost did with its multiplayer that the previous 2 or 3 games before it didn't do. And so that led to where then by the time that we went to Advanced Warfare and added the exo movements and all that, it was a breath of fresh air because there was new stuff to it for the first time in a few Call of Duties, even if it was poorly executed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, when I played Ghosts, it was long after it came out, and when I played it, I was like, I don't understand why people were crapping on this game so hard. But then, I didn't.
That's the only Call of Duty I don't. That's the only one I don't own anymore, and I kind of wish I had it again. It's one of those that every once in a while when I'm at GameStop and stuff like that, I see it. But for some reason, that one is like one of the. Typically, the newest Call of Duty is obviously the most expensive, but typically that one is still like $20.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like I don't get it. Like you can, for some reason, Call of Duty Ghosts PS4, $19.99 pre-owned. Where if I go and try to buy the Call of Duty that came out 1 year later with Advanced Warfare, it is. Oh, this is showing as $19.99 as well, but I feel like it's cheaper. This must be digital.
So not only is it one of the lowest rated COD games, it came out in like 2012, 13,
yeah.
It's $20.
Yeah, or meanwhile, I can go buy Call of Duty World War II for like probably $5 or something like that. Like, because part of it is World War II sold so well and people traded it in, so now they have a billion copies. And yeah, I can buy World War II, which came out 4 years later, for half the price. It's $10 to buy it at GameStop, or Black Ops 3. Like I can get like all the other PlayStation 4 Call of Duty games at a lot of places cheaper than Ghosts, even though Ghosts was the first PS4 Call of Duty.
Well, that makes sense if you don't think about it.
Exactly. The thing we always say with Call of Duty is COD logic, because there is no logic to it. So that applies to this as well.
Yeah, clearly. And I would be absolutely down to watch all of these movies, to play that game. If we can, it's obviously like
studios listen to us. We know things.
Please, listen to Rocket Bomb. And a lot of these problems come down to the studio. And so at least I can speak on movies. You can speak on video games. For movies, a lot of these directors do not have the clout, especially horror movies. It's kind of like where you start off. They don't have the clout to make certain decisions that the studio does. A lot of problems with movies are studio decisions, mismarketing, or maybe they think that the story should go this way, but it really shouldn't, because I guess it's consumed easier. And perhaps maybe that's what video games suffer from too, is just studio decisions when you should be letting the professionals handle.
Yeah, one you're talking about, that one I was thinking about from a video a couple days ago was Crash. Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex is a perfect example of it. There's a YouTube channel called Game Hut or Gaming Hut. I can't remember if it has ing or not, but it is ran by the guy who started Traveler's Tales. And so John Burton, he is out of doing a whole lot with them now, but he goes and goes over a lot of different stuff that's gone on when Traveler's Tales has done this. When from how they got Toy Story on the Genesis to work, or the secrets they got with Sonic 3D Blast and all that. And so one of the things that he talked about was the original pitch that they had for the Wrath of Cortex, and it's closer to what eventually we got with Crash to Insanity, but it was more of it's more like what we saw with Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank, more of a semi-open world platformer, not as much of the corridor point A to point B like you see in the Crash Bandicoot trilogy and Crash 4. And then then Universal was like, no, let's just do this. And it's one of those that then they made them change, and they pushed it, and then all of a sudden, like, they were on kind of a crunch, and that's why we got a game with minimal improvements and innovations from its PlayStation predecessors, despite being on newer and stronger hardware.
I remember watching that video. I think like Cortex's daughter or something was supposed to be in there.
Like there's a lot of stuff like Nina Cortex, and like there's stuff that would eventually come to the series that was initially going to be in what eventually became the Cortex, or another one was with Twinsanity, how that game is unfinished because they went and the development kind of just went in a bunch of different ways, and so all of a sudden they had to go and turn it around and get the game out in a certain amount of time, and by then the game was not fully done, and that's why it's one that has remained kind of a mismatched one by fans and critics.
That's please, studios, get out of the way. Let the professionals handle it. They will know what to do with their own games.
Exactly. So I like our things. These sound like good movies and games. So now we can move on into recommendations. So we have Connor's turn with Baldi's Basics. So first off, Connor, why?
So I played this a few weeks ago, and I just thought that I was watching a video on YouTube of the best horror games recently released, and this was in it, and I saw it and I thought it was just creepy enough. But also it was kind of a good red herring of the way it was set up to look like it was supposed to be a kids learning game. I thought this would be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it like I said last week, once I Googled it and saw the pictures, I knew exactly what I was getting into. Even if I didn't know what the gameplay was going to entail, I knew it was going to be one of those, where you go into it thinking it's going to be this crappy kids game, like this educational game, and then something is going to go wrong, and in this case the math, you can never finish the third problem, start with the second notebook, and then it would cause all hell to break loose. And so it is it definitely fit everything about it with how bad the graphics are and the music and the sound effects. It gets the job done. That is definitely for sure. It reminded me a lot in terms of the gameplay of the Slenderman games, because
yes,
collect objectives, because once you start collecting that second notebook, then Baldi's chasing after you, and so it's a lot of the collect the MacGuffin and escape. Just it's in a low res 3D school instead of a dark forest like Slenderman is, and so that was a ton of fun to see.
And that makes perfect sense, because apparently the chatter on the internet of Baldi's Basics is the comparison is always Slender 8 pages.
Yeah.
So it's perfect that you say that.
Yeah. So hopefully we don't see people, killing others because of it, like we saw with because they don't want to please Baldi or something like that. So, But yeah, it definitely was a creepy experience. And it was fun. I kept dying a couple times, and I was like, oh, because man, once you get that second one, he just starts beating his ruler. You're just like, nope.
Yeah.
And then you gotta run. So
yeah. Did you get very far?
I got 3 notebooks, I think. I was playing it late last night, and then my phone was about to die. So I'll probably play it some more again after this. Because I was playing on my phone. There is an expanded version that is on Switch. That is $10 to get early access to. That I might have to go get that because that came out back in June. So it says Baldi's Basic Plus is like the original game, but plus the same cruddy edutainment horror type parody theme is back. Both hugely expanded gameplay features, including procedurally generated levels, field trip mini games, crazy random events, plus more characters, more items, and more chaos. So that one looks like it'll make it too. So it'll make the game harder because if stuff is procedurally generated, that means you can go to a level And one time you play it, the first notebook is down to your left, and the second time you have to go through like 4 rooms just to get it. So
all right,
that'll be fun to see.
The if you can, watch some gameplay of the original game on YouTube and go towards the end, because the end is kind of this, I'm not going to say iconic, but it's what the game leads up to. It's very interesting and very unsettling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know each time that you get a big notebooks, Baldy gets quicker and quicker. And so by the time it makes it so once you get all of them at the escape, then it's going to be even harder to get out there. So yeah, I'll definitely check out more of it and play some more. But yeah, it definitely was a fun one. I would have to give it a 9 out of 10 detentions for me.
All right. Good.
So Johnny,
I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it.
I thought it was terrifying. I only played it one time, and I only got to the second notebook. And then he started coming after me, and the music is like really happy and cheery and like child friendly, and then it just stops. And that's when I got this like goosebumps, and I was like, "Oh no, yeah!" And I heard the smacking, and I thought he was smacking me already, and I was like, I kept turning around, and he wasn't there, and so I was really confused about like what that sound was. And then I opened the door, and he had the ruler, and I was like, "Oh God!" So yeah, I didn't play it after that because my headphones were kind of jank, and I wanted to have the best experience. So I'm probably gonna go get some earbuds after this and play it again later tonight to try to beat it. I don't know if you can beat it.
Yeah, you can collect all 7. You just have to plan it.
Okay.
You have to collect all 7 and then escape as well.
Yeah,
and
true.
the
I'm
escaping part is very difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
What's it? You have to die a lot to.
It's not a trial and error.
Trial and error. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It already just gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I love that it's such a. It's like it's not what you think in horror, but it's also exactly what horror is. So it's great. I would give it 9.5 out of 10 yardsticks.
Yes. Nice.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. So Connor, you did a good one. Johnny did have to run out real fast though. So his recommendation was for us to watch Parasite on Hulu. So the movie that won Best Picture at the most recent Academy Awards. We'll have to watch that. We'll have to read subtitles, Connor.
What? No. This is not what I signed up for. Learn to speak goddamn English.
Yeah, I can't believe that we have to watch a film that is from a different country and they don't just speak English. What? So we'll watch that and give our opinions on that next week as well. And so that will, as we kind of wrap up the episode, just a quick reminder that this podcast is sponsored by Anchor, which is the easiest way to make a podcast. Visit anchor.fm to start your own. Also, this podcast is sponsored by ByLightFixtures.com. Visit ByLightFixtures.com for a trusted source of quality lighting products for your business or home. And so, be sure to tune in these next couple weeks as we still are approaching Halloween for some more spoopy stuff, including a special interview that we'll be having with another podcast that does focus on more of the spoopy stuff. And of course, be sure to follow us on the social medias on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. Because actually I will be streaming a little bit this week once this episode goes live. And once the Call of Duty Warzone Halloween event comes, I'll throw a couple streams up of that as well. So be sure to do that. And obviously remember that you can listen to us on a bunch of platforms, not just on YouTube. You can listen to us on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. So do that. And also don't forget about Connor's new show, Moving in Stereo. Connor, have you guys decided on what day of the week those episodes will be going live then, so listeners know what to look forward to?
I think we're going to be releasing on Tuesdays as a way of throwing it back to when released on Tuesdays. But I guess if you're a Spotify person, it's Fridays now. But yeah Tuesdays.
Awesome.
Today.
Yeah. I do remember the good old days of Tuesday releases. Cool. So, will you guys have an episode by the time this episode up? Will there be one, or will it be next week that fans can look forward to one?
I don't know.
Okay.
Kind of had a wrench thrown in our plans this time, but yeah, we'll keep people posted on social media.
Yeah, we'll definitely let you guys know. So that is something to be on the lookout for. Obviously, a couple episodes ago was the backdoor pilot of it, so you can kind of get an idea of what Connor, Tyler, and Court will talk about in the show. Good luck trying to differentiate Connor and Tyler in that. They almost need a little thing that'll have a robot that says Tyler, because since they are twins, their voices do sound similar. There are differences that if you listen, you can tell them apart. But I'm sure that's going to be confusing for a lot of listeners who may stumble upon the podcast. But that'll wrap up episode 35 of Rocket Talk. So be sure to go and check out all of us. Be sure to play Baldi's Basics, whether you play it on the phone, on the computer, or you go out and buy the Plus on Steam, and hopefully you can get all the notebooks. So long for now.